Good morning, everybody. How are y'all today? And I want to say good morning to our online folks also. I have just a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. Those of you who are getting the nursing and the medical credits, you're going to need to get with me today right after lunch so that we can take care of some paperwork that we'll need to do. Everyone else, we seem to be doing really well. Did everyone sign in this morning? That's the most important thing. If you have not signed in, please do so, and we'll take care of that. And then we'll just get started. I have the honor and privilege of introducing two very special women in my life. Kim Davignon is a prosecutor with Tarrant County District Attorney's Office in Fort Worth, Texas. That's my home base, and I get to work a lot with the Tarrant County prosecutors. I admire them. They have the most amazing, it's Special Victims Unit now, but I grew up and it was the Crimes Against Children Unit. Amazing group of people. You can give them a case, and they're so creative in how they figure out how to do everything that they need to do. They've taught me a lot over the years. And Kim is just that person that whenever I call and I say I need this, she always says yes, and it really helps me a lot. And then I also had the privilege just yesterday, we've talked on the phone some, of meeting Chaz Easterly, and she's here to share her story that she experienced. And I hope that what you'll take away from that is not only the pain that she went through and the hardships that she's gone through, but the person she is today and how we all can take those bad things and turn them into good. And so I'm going to turn this over to them. Don't want to take up any of their precious time. And so if anybody needs anything, let us know today. I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Kim, and this is Chaz, and I am so thrilled to be able to present with Chaz. This whole thing for us started way back in 2009. That's when we first had the trial. We're going to talk about all of that. But about a year ago, maybe, Chaz called me and said, you know, it's been a while since the trial, and I've been really doing some soul searching, and I've realized that part of my story is helping people understand what this journey is, what my journey was, what they can take away for their own journey, and really working a lot with teenage girls about how to hopefully, and that's always our word, hopefully help them not end up in the same situations that she ended up in. And so that's our hope today. And she goes, I would love to speak. She goes, I've been speaking to church groups, but I would really like to speak to professionals. And I said, well, let me reach out to Bonnie and see what we've got. And she invited us to this. So that's our hope for today, is to help spread this idea out there, because y'all are the ones on the front lines. Y'all are the ones talking to people, and we want to give y'all the tools that hopefully we learned along the way. Because as Mike said, by the way, Mike's my investigator, so he's going to get a bunch of shout-outs. He's the best. But, you know, as Mike said, we make a lot of mistakes along the way, and we don't need to keep rebuilding this house every time. Like, learn from our mistakes and hopefully take this away and work with your own people. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of split it up a little bit. So I'm going to start with just what was going on, okay? First off, my name is Kim, and I work for the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office. I've been there 16 years. Part of what we do in our office is we have a special unit called Crimes Against Children. And I spent about 8 years in Crimes Against Children. So worked child homicides, child abductions, and child molestations. That was really what we were tasked to do. But one of the really special aspects of our office that I really enjoyed is we are all in on multidisciplinary task force. We come in and we do a team approach to cases. And so part of that team approach is once a month we meet with detectives from different jurisdictions to talk about what cases they have coming up. And so that's how this whole case came into my life. It was staffing where a detective just starts talking about this case. So I already forgot which one works. Nope. Okay. So North Wilton Hills is kind of a middle-class suburb in our area, just kind of average, nothing real fancy about it. And I was there one day in 2007 talking to a detective. And he said, listen, I've got this case coming in, and I think there could be a lot of victims. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about it. And so he tells me we have a girl named Katie. She's 22 years old, and she is in college at the time. And she has just outcried that her coach from when she played what's called AAU sports, which is select basketball for her. It's in Texas, God knows we love our sports. So let's be clear. Select is when you want to go and pay extra to play extra games, have extra coaching. It's for your kids who really are into a specific sport. And so the parents, this is a big deal for them, for their kids to be playing select sports. They certainly spend a lot of money and they spend a lot of time to give their kids the opportunity to really excel in their sports. And so AAU is a big part of sports for this age group. And she had played AAU basketball in junior high and through high school, and then she went on to play college ball. She was a very good basketball player. But she's in college, and she has called the police and said, listen, I was molested by my coach. And it was in 1999. I think there may have been others. And so I'm hearing this case, and all I'm hearing, because unfortunately in our business we have a lot of opportunity where we deal with what we call authoritative molesters, your preachers, your teachers, your coaches, someone in a position of authority over the children. That's really what we specialize in our Crimes Against Children unit. And so I'm hearing, okay, coach, okay, I got this. And the detective keeps saying, Mel Hall, Mel Hall. And I'm like, yeah, coach, got it. He's like, no, Mel Hall. And I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about. None. Zero. What are you talking about? And this is when I delved into this world that I did not know before, because I'll be honest, I am not a baseball fan. I'm not. I'm a football fan. I'm from Texas. It's how we roll. And I did not understand that baseball fans are intense. They know stats of everybody. They know everything. That's just not a world I understood. And so I literally remember looking at the detective going, right, he's a coach, Mel Hall. Who is that? He's like, no, it's Mel Hall. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, it's because Mel Hall is a former New York Yankee. And I didn't know that. Because all I'm hearing is, so he's a baseball player, but he's coaching girls junior high basketball. I'm confused. I'm very confused. To me, all that screams is, well, he's got to be a pedophile, because why is there a baseball coach that's coaching girls junior high basketball? That doesn't make any sense to me. But as I'm learning, so all of a sudden I'm just knee deep in this baseball world that I don't understand. And as I've come to learn, Mel Hall, born in 1960, that's going to be important when we start talking about ages, but he had played for the Chicago Cubs, the Cleveland Indians. The Yankees was really what he was most well known for. He was a pretty flamboyant player, ran around with Deion Sanders. This was kind of that time period in the Yankees. Once again, not a baseball player. All you people that are baseball fans, I'm so upset with my version of this because I'm not a baseball fan. Played in Japan, ended his career playing in San Francisco in 1996, and then he started coaching this select basketball in our area in 1997. So, once again, I thought, well, that's just so strange. Why do you stop playing baseball and start coaching basketball? That doesn't make sense to me. But I really had another concern, which is, I've got this girl, Katie, who has said, listen, I was molested by him. I think there's others. And in my experience, it's probably true, right? Most of the time when you're talking about an authoritative molester, you're going to have other victims. And so my thought is, we've got to get to work, because here's the thing. If he is any kind of celebrity, even locally as a celebrity in the idea that he's a coach, because y'all know these are the cases that immediately make the news. When you arrest a teacher, a preacher, a coach, it's going to make the news right away. And so you need to have your ducks in a row pretty fast. Well, I didn't really know how many victims. I just knew there probably were going to be more, and so we needed to get to work. And so we started working on it. I went the other way, sorry. But it starts with Katie. And Katie is truly one of the heroes of this story, because without her, I don't know if and when this ever would have come out. But for Katie, what had happened was she had played for a team called the Texas Fire in 1999. She was about 14 years old. And basketball was just her life. She did go on to play college ball. She's actually now a coach, a high school coach. I mean, she loves basketball. And that is really important, because when we talk about this and we talk about how molesters work, they find what's important to you and they abuse that idea too. And so for this girl and all of these girls, it was basketball. That was his key. That was his in. That's what he used to manipulate and control them and to get them to do the things he wanted them to do. But she was 14 years old, and the coach was her world, and she would take every extra opportunity she could to go to he would say, hey, you need extra shooting practice. Okay, I'm there. Hey, I need you to come with me to help set up this tournament. Okay, I'm there. That's who she was. She was one of the youngest girls on the team, but she was also the team captain because that's the kind of girl Katie was. And so she would also occasionally babysit for him. He had a young child. And one day she's over there babysitting, and he takes her back into her bedroom and pulls off her overalls and sexually assaults her. And she remembers it hurting, and she remembers throwing away her underwear, and she remembers thinking, I can't ever be alone with him again. But her parents loved him, thought the world of him. And you're going to see that as a perpetual, if there's one thing Mel Hall did well, it was manipulate parents. And her parents just adored him. And so she actually, it was kind of toward the end of the season, so she quit hanging out, like, okay, that season's over, I'm going to move on to another team. And then they ran into him one day, and her dad goes, oh, you should go with him to buy a batting glove for your brother. And she's like, I don't want to get in this car. I don't want to get in this car. And she's doing everything she can not to get in the car. But she, as y'all know from talking to victims, she knows I have two choices here. Either I tell because I refuse to get in this car, right? Like I have to tell my dad why I don't want to now go in this car, or I get in the car. And she gets in the car because she doesn't want to tell yet. She's 15 years old at that point. She's like, I can't tell. And so she gets in the car, and she drives with him, and he pulls over near Lake Grapevine in Tarrant County and sexually assaults her again. And Katie made a decision at that point that she was just going to deal with it. The decision that most victims end up making. I'm just going to deal with this. I'm going to be fine. It's going to be okay. But it was eating away at her. And she would talk about, she had told, a friend along the way, a boyfriend along the way. Right before she left for college, she actually kind of told her parents, but not in a full way, just kind of a, hey, this is what's going on, I can't talk about it. And so her parents really didn't have the information either. Katie actually had a brother who was a priest. And she went to him one day and said, I need you to put your priest hat on, and we're going to talk in terms of priest. And so I can't imagine how hard that was for her brother. But she did tell him what was going on. But same thing. I don't want to report. I don't want to do anything. I just want you to know you're my brother. I want your spiritual advice at this point. And so there were times that she had told along the way, but she was just deciding to deal with it. But then she's in college, and she's watching a movie called Georgia Rule. And it's about a girl talking about her sexual abuse. And Katie starts to think, well, surely he's not still coaching. Because she knew he wasn't still coaching in the AAU in our area because she still had contacts to that. So she knew he wasn't coaching there. She goes, well, surely he's not coaching. So at this point, unlike in 1999, it's now 2007, and she has the benefit of Google. And so she starts looking it up. And he's still coaching. Now he's coaching softball over in Collin County, which is a little bit to the north of our county. And that's it. That just breaks her wide open. She just realizes, because she's a girl who's about to start coaching on her own. She's about to graduate from college. She wants to be a coach. And she's like, I can't know that he's out there. And then she tells kind of the biggest truth for her, because she knows there are others, because she could just tell. And she makes a decision to call a girl named Courtney. And when you ask Katie this, what made you call Courtney? She says, I didn't know her very well. They played on one team together one season, but really how she knew her was she played at a competing high school, actually a competing college at some point. She goes, she defended him the same way I defended him. And I just knew. So she Facebooks her. She doesn't know her. She's not friends with her on Facebook, but she messaged her on Facebook, and she says, hey, can you call me? And so when she calls, she says, listen, I'm about to call the police. Mel Hall sexually assaulted me. Did he sexually assault you? And just silence. Silence from Courtney. And that's when we knew. Now we have two. So this is actually a picture of the team that Courtney and Katie both played on. And what's interesting is, and obviously their faces are blacked out, and we are using pseudonyms, which is hard for me, by the way. So if I slip up and throw out an extra name, I'm doing the best I can on the names. Because I know these girls and I love these girls, and I don't normally call them by pseudonyms. But it got to the point where I could look at a team photo and figure out who I needed to call, because he had such a type. But these two girls is the only season they played together. And you could look at it, and if you could see the photo, you'd be like, those are the two girls. Once you know his type, you would know. So Courtney gets this call from Katie, and she has never told really anyone. She's hinted around at it. She's told some people a couple of things along the way, but when Katie says it happened to me, just the phone goes deaf, and she goes, "Okay, I'll participate." But Courtney, unlike Katie, is a very, very shy girl. She is someone who in college would, if there was a class that involved a test or like it had a presentation attached to it, she would just skip the presentation and take a 0 and try to make it up with homework. This is a girl who was, by the way, one of the best athletes in our community. She was a parade All-American. Like, this is a girl who can play some ball. But when it comes to talking out loud, boy, you're never going to get 3 words in a row out of her. It's just not her thing. She's an athlete. She's not a talker. And so, kind of naively, if you will, she agrees to also report to North Richland Hills Police with Katie. And she thinks, it's okay. It'll just stay with us, right? And I don't know why she thought this, but she thought, it's okay, I'll write my statement. Everyone will know. It'll be fine. Well, she doesn't even tell her parents. Like, she does not tell her parents, I've reported this to the police. But it starts to gain momentum, because at this point, the case has come to us, and we realize, oh my gosh, what's going on? And we have Courtney's statement. And what we have is, she's the youngest of all of them. She was 13 when most of these acts occurred. And she played when she was 12 and 13 with him. This is really key, because this is something that you're going to see over and over again. Mel Hall lived with her family. And that sounds crazy. Like, when I tell this story, and even in trial, people are like, why is he living with family? This was his thing. And he would work his way into families. And let's be clear, traded on his celebrity every chance he got. I can get them to the top of the leagues because I've made it to the majors. I know how to do this. I'm the kind of athlete that knows how to get you where you need to go. And these families were absolutely buying it. And so when they would then start to hear things from him like, gosh, I'm building this big old house out in South Lake, which is one of our richer suburbs, but it's not done yet. Do you mind if I sleep on your couch for a few months? It sounds insane, right? Like, it literally sounds insane. But these families were like, well, of course. That means more practice time for my girls. That's great. And he would ingratiate himself into these families. The families were all in. And it's hard to see from the outside looking in, but I will tell you, these are normal, average people who just wanted the best for their daughter. And when this guy goes, hey, I just need a place to stay, they didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And so this guy is staying in their house. By the way, this comes up later, especially when we get to trial. He made a lot of money. I don't know where that money went. Because by the time we have him, I never have him living in more than like a 1-bedroom apartment in North Richland Hills. Like, he is sleeping on everybody's couch. I don't know where his money went. He didn't have any that I ever saw. But he comes and lives with Courtney's family. And during this time, it starts off, like most molesters, you have to start off with games that don't seem like they're sexual, to try and bring down the boundaries, bring down the borders between what you're going to ultimately do with this kid. And so for Courtney, his approach was, she had a brother who was about a year younger than her, like right around the same age. And they would play this game where he would take off his pants and throw his legs up in the air and shake. And then he would get her brother to do it. And so this kind of normalized the idea, like, hey, he's a grown man, but, we're playing this game. And it just kind of normalizes this idea in kids' head that, okay, well, I don't really know any other adults that are taking off their pants around me, but everyone, this is a fun game. My brother's laughing. I guess it's okay. And it starts there. That's how they work. It starts with stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense to us as adults, but as a kid, it changes the idea of, is this right, is this wrong? And then by the time they start to realize they're in the wrong zone, it's too late. They're too deep in. There's too much shame and all the other millions of feelings attached to it because they feel complicit because they didn't tell when the pants off game started. And so now, how am I going to tell? Like, now he's doing these other things, but I didn't tell him about the pants off game, and no one's going to believe me because that's weird. And it just kind of spirals from there. Plus, her brother saw this pants off game, and, well, he didn't think anything was wrong, so maybe maybe I'm wrong for thinking that's wrong. And it just becomes this very complex situation for a 12 or 13-year-old girl to try and figure out. With her, it was pretty consistent for about a year that he sexually assaulted her. The most common thing he would do is he would drive her to practice, because now that he's living there, I'll drive her to practice. And he would drive her to practice, and on the way, he would stop and force her to perform oral sex on him. That was his most common way of sexually assaulting her. And at one point, he says something to her. He wants her to have sex with him, and he says something like, Sally's done it, why won't you? And at the time, she really didn't think, because she is thinking at this point, this is my boyfriend, which is a pretty common way for kids to start thinking. This is the guy that's giving her attention. She was kind of an awkward girl. She'll tell you that herself. She was all arms and legs and just kind of an awkward girl. And she thinks, this man loves me. He's taking care of me. He wants the best for me. And so she actually thinks when he tells her the Sally comment that he wasn't actually having a relationship with Sally. He was just using that to try to get her to do something, like try to make her jealous. But probably the biggest moment for Courtney in all of this molestation, and her kind of I can't do this anymore moment, was she was a phenom, and this girl could play. And she was a girl that if she was on your team, she was playing every second you could. She was just the best. And it was nationals in Florida, and there were tons of college scouts there. And he pulled her because she wouldn't perform oral sex before the game. And everyone kind of noticed that. Like, why is Courtney not playing? I don't understand. We're trying to win. Like, why is Courtney not playing? And he pulled her, and her dad even kind of clued in a little bit, like, what is going on? Why are you getting pulled? But no one's figuring out the whole story, but enough about, maybe this guy isn't the best for my daughter's basketball career. And so she'd actually aged out of that team anyway, and she moves on to a different team. At that point, she's able to play for her high school ball, and that kind of takes over. And so she ends up, thank goodness, getting away from him. But Courtney buries this super deep. This is a girl that she told a couple of random friends, like her age kind of thing, told a teacher's aide at one point, but she was not going to talk about it. She was not going to do therapy, forget it. She wasn't going to do any of that. And she certainly wasn't going to tell her parents. And when Katie called her, like I said, naively, she thought, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's okay. Like, I'm just helping Katie out. But it was bigger than that. And so one of the hardest moments of this whole thing was when we had to tell Courtney, all right, you're going to have to call your parents. And she's away at college, and she's like, no, you're going to have to call your parents because it's about to hit the news. And they're going to figure this out. And so that was a horrible moment for us. And it's hard when you're first trying to build trust as a prosecutor, when one of the first things you're having to say is, yeah, you're going to have to call your parents, and this is the last thing in the world you want to do. So we get Courtney. Like I said, at this point, we're starting to realize, my investigator at the time, his name was Brian Moody, I'm telling you, like, he's pulling up rosters, and we're looking at pictures, and we're like, call that girl, call that girl, call that girl. But some of the stuff is coming out just naturally, like, as it does in these cases. If this girl comes out, well, he was always kind of around this girl, too. And what about this girl? And that's kind of how it starts to work. So the first family that we hear from that's kind of outside of this is a family called the Becker family. And this is right before Courtney. And this family had let him, wait for it, live with him because he was building a big old house. You can live with me. And he starts living with Dana Becker's family. And he just never gets around to sexually assaulting her, but he starts the, I love you, you're so important, you're so beautiful. All of these things that any 12, 13, 14-year-old girl wants to hear. And imagine if you're hearing that and you think he's great, and then your parents think this guy is amazing. Like, you're going to fall for it. That's just how it works. But about that same time, he's living there, and her 12-year-old brother comes home from school early, and Mel Hall is in their game room on the floor having sex with a girl that clearly is underage. And as a matter of fact, she leaves, whatever, and the brother asks, like, who is that? And he admits to her, this girl's in high school. And so this boy, because he had not been groomed, goes and tells his parents, like, oh my God, this is what just happened. And they immediately kick him out, and that's when he ends up at Courtney's house. Kayla was also kind of around Courtney and Katie's teen, kind of the same time period. He starts grooming her at 13, buying her expensive gifts, and that's another thing you're going to see with him. Like, he would buy these girls the pair of basketball shoes they wanted but they couldn't afford, diamond necklaces. Like, what coach in the world gives a 13-year-old girl a diamond necklace? He did. He gave one to Katie. But the difference between Kayla and all these other girls is that Kayla's mom was not playing around. Kayla's mom, she's a firefighter, and she saw this coming a mile away. And so Kayla's mom immediately, like, she sees the gift, she's like, nope, not going to happen. You're out. And so she moves Kayla to a different team. And thinks everything's fine. And then they're at a big tournament up at Kayla's high school, and he shows up, and she finds out that he gets Kayla's number from her, and he's texting her. And so Kayla's mom, not playing around, goes straight to the school, to the police, and to the AAU. And she doesn't have anything to report because all she's got is, he's texting my daughter. There had not been any sexual assault at that time. But she gets a protective order. He's not allowed to be around the school anymore. And by contacting the AAU never does anything, but they kick him out. And so, well, I say kick him out. What happens is they kind of just go, maybe you don't want to come back next season. Is kind of how it works. And so he goes off, and that's kind of the last we see of him in our area. And so that's why these girls don't know where he ends up, because Kayla's mom gets rid of him. Well, we find out later, and I will tell you there's some time periods missing in here, because there are certainly some times that we couldn't track him because he's living on everybody's couch, so we can't find out where he was all the time. But so that happens in 2002 when she files a police report, and he's gone. But then we go and we find him again in 2004 in Denton. And in Denton, he is coaching now softball. And so that was a little bit of a hard time. That's how we had a little bit of a hard time finding some of his records, because we're still trying to track down basketball. And then we realized, oh, wait, he's switched. So now he's coaching baseball, softball. And with Karen, he starts being her batting coach or hitting coach. And they're at a team party, and he grabs up behind her and tells her, I love you, you have a nice body, I really want to have sex with you. And she, luckily during that time period, he kind of is distracted by something else. And so nothing more comes of that, but she doesn't tell anyone, doesn't really have much to do with it, but she does tell some friends, but doesn't report it, nothing like that happens. But there's another girl. And so then, 2006, we get to Sarah. Now, what's important about this is the heat's is starting to come on, because we're going to have our outcry for Courtney and Katie are going to call the police in 2007. So this is 2006. And we have this girl whose name is Sarah, and they're arrested in a parking lot where she's refusing to give her name. You would think that would get the police's attention, but it didn't. They arrested her and let him go on his way. So she gets arrested, and there's kind of some weirdness about who was with you when you were arrested. She won't tell her parents. No one's really let anything go on. And then, in one of the craziest parts of this, well, there's lots of crazy parts of this case, but so, and once again, not a huge baseball fan, but as I've learned, so these teams that they play on, they have basically feeder teams. And so when you have players that are missing, they'll just get someone from the feeder team to come play in your team for tournaments, things like that. So if people have to go on vacation or have school events, you still have a full team to play in these tournaments. Well, Sarah had the same baseball number as another girl whose dad was actually a coach, like the major manager of kind of the whole team feeder area. And so his daughter came to play in Sarah's spot one day for a team, or was not in Sarah's spot, but came to play on Sarah's team. And they happened to have the same baseball number. And what's important about that is all the girls had bags with their number on it. And this girl gets home, and she finds a letter from Mel Hall in her bag, which he thinks is Sarah's bag, that is a very clear love letter. It's unbelievable, actually. And in a twist that only y'all that work with these victims will understand, because this is really one of the things that's hardest to explain to people that don't do this on a regular basis. This coach goes to Sarah's parents and says, oh my God, like, we have found this letter. It is very clear that he is in a romantic relationship with your daughter. And her parents are like, and kind of let it go. Like those of you that work with this type of case know that's what happens. It is, you think that parents are going to lose their mind, and they don't. You think that wives are going to leave their husbands when they find out that they don't. And so they just kind of go, And so actually, when we're doing our investigation, and we're trying to find all these girls, I mean, obviously we know we have a victim here. We have a victim, there's no doubt. We actually had an ex-girlfriend that Mel Hall was, wait for it, living on her couch, and she had actually given him a phone. And so she brought us phone records. And in a 3-week period, there were 626 phone calls between these two, all hours of the night. And so this girl has never told me that she was sexually abused by Mel Hall. I have zero doubt she was sexually abused by Mel Hall, but she refuses to cooperate with our investigation. But this is literally who he's with when the investigation starts, and it's who he's with when he gets arrested. I mean, this girl, her parents, even up until he's getting arrested for these other girls, he's still with Sarah. He's not still with Sarah, but he was still with Sarah up until the arrest. So, 2007, summer of 2007, June, we actually get our arrest warrant based on Courtney and based on Katie. And so we know how this works. Those of you who work these cases know what happens. As soon as the press release goes out, what's going to happen? We're going to get more victims. We know it. And so we're kind of preparing for that. And so it goes out locally first. He gets arrested in late May, early June. Middle of June, Sports Illustrated runs this article. Arrested on charges he sexually assaulted 2 girls, former major leaguer Mel Hall. The alleged incidents happened in 1998 or 99 when he was coaching. And then, of course, because it's Sports Illustrated, they have to give us stats. By the way, like, oh yeah, he sexually assaulted a kid, but here's his hitting record. So, whatever. So, once again, not a baseball fan, did not know what was about to happen in the next moment. Because I think, okay, so we're going to get local girls. Like, I really still am not cluing in that this part that he's a baseball player matters. And so, he's arrested. The internet starts blowing up. And God bless my investigator, Brian. He spent, it's got to be the worst job, right? Like, reading internet trolls for days and days and days has got to be the worst job. But he keeps coming to me and he's like, listen, Kim. He goes, I don't know what's going on, but I keep hearing all these phrases, like in all these comments on the articles about him getting arrested, you just keep hearing this, well, we always knew Mel Hall liked him young. And just on. And I mean, like, this phrase just keeps coming up. And people keep referencing a prom picture that is in the 1989 Yankees playbook that was sold at all the games that season. A prom picture. He was 29, y'all. And I'm like, literally, I've been doing this at that point for 10 years. That can't be true. I remember saying that, like, well, that's not true. That's just internet crap. That's not true. But we just keep hearing it. It keeps coming up in all these comments. It keeps coming up in all these comments. And this Mel Hall always liked him young. I kept thinking, well, that's odd. But we can't find anything. But we're looking. We're looking because we know there's something. And then we get this call from a woman named Christine. And she is in Montreal. And when she was 18 years old in 1985, she meets him. And she's sexually assaulted by him. She worked at a mall. And he takes her out, sexually assaults her. Doesn't tell anyone until she sees the Sports Illustrated article. Calls us. And so I'm like, okay, this is it. I was like, okay, did you, prom? Like, tell me about prom. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, okay. So I still don't know, but there's still this prom idea out there. We're still looking, right? My investigator finds this article. And this article, those of you, this article makes me crazy. By the way, you can't, I tried when I was getting ready on this. This is gone. This website's gone. But my head exploded when I read this. Because this is an article called, Have I Wronged This Man? And it's written in, look at it, 2003. So this is before our victims have come out. He wrote an article back before this article, basically calling out Mel Hall and someone else on the Yankees about statutory rape. Like, well, I mean, we always knew Mel Hall was da-da-da. Then he writes this whole article about maybe I was wrong because maybe this girl was 16 and that's not statutory rape and I should stay out of it and I wronged this man by calling him a pet. I mean, he was 29, and even if she was 16, let's all take a breath here. But he's writing this article saying, I must have wronged him. So we find this article. So now I'm like, okay, there's something. Like, this is not just internet trolling. This is something. We still have nothing. We're trying everything, can't find anything. And then we get a call in 2007 from Chaz. And it comes through her. First we get it, well, she calls her police, her local police back in Connecticut, and then it comes to us. But when we got her story, everything started to change because, lo and behold, there's a prom picture. So I'm going to turn that over to Chaz now.
Good morning. So I'm Chaz Easterly. And, Kim, it's funny. A lot of these things I'm hearing for the first time because during the trial I was in a sequestered room and I'm kind of not surprised, but wow. I knew he, at the trial, was a pedophile, and that is really where I first learned that he was a pedophile. But before I get into all that, I will share my story. I was 15 years old. I turned 15 in February in 1989, and I had a very good friend of mine, and it was her 16th birthday in June, and so her big thing was, let's go to Yankee Stadium, let's see Mel Hall. He's my favorite player, her favorite player, and her dad was a box seat holder. We lived about 45 minutes from the city, so the Yankees were a big deal. The players were a big deal, and it's what you did growing up in Fairfield, Connecticut. We spent summers at Yankee Stadium, and so anyway, for her birthday, we went to Yankee Stadium, and her dad got her seats right on left field, right on the side, so first row, and it was a doubleheader against Boston, and we were having a great day. It was a beautiful day. It was a Sunday. And Mel Hall was there, and we wanted an autograph because we're here. It's her birthday. She's 16, and this is their big deal, And so we kept saying, Mel Hall, can we get an autograph? We're both young. We don't even have makeup on. We look 15 and 16 at that time. There was nothing that made us look older. So the whole game, we kept asking for an autograph. He teases us the whole game. He and a few other ball players, Ricky Henderson was one of them, would point to us, and the whole stand behind us saw what was going on, and they're like, throw them a ball. Now everybody's asking for the ball, and they would never throw us the ball. And then the second game came. It was a doubleheader, and we left early, but as we were leaving, he was literally from the field waving us back, and everyone in the stand was like, I think you're going to get your ball. But he would never give us the baseball. So we thought that was so strange. So we go home, and I think we're studying at the Fairfield Public Library for exams, and we were saying, as a 15-year-old would say, what a drag. I can't believe we didn't get a autograph. I mean, the whole time he's pretending he's throwing a ball. He never gave us the ball. And so we pen a letter. Would you please send us an autograph? And I pen it with my girlfriend sitting there. We were there for 2 games, and you didn't give us an autograph. Would you please send her an autograph? It was her birthday, like a 15-year-old would write. So we penned Bronx, Yankee Stadium, Bronx, New York. We didn't even know zip code. Sent the letter. Now it's summer. It's June, late June, and I get a call. And it was when we didn't have cell phones. I had an upstairs line, and we had a downstairs line. And so he called, and he said, hello, this is Mel Hall from the New York Yankees. Is Chastity there? And I'm like, this is she. Now, I had a mad crush on Michael Jackson at the time. And we were talking last night. I must have had a thing for pedophiles. I don't know. But I did not realize it. So I was in love with Michael Jackson and truly obsessed. And people would call because I wasn't really dating. So people would call and say, this is Michael Jackson. And I'm like, okay, Debbie must have called someone. And so I hang up the phone, and he calls back. And I hang up the phone, and he's persistent, and he calls back. Don't hang up the phone. This is Mel Hall from the New York Yankees. Listen, I can tell you what you wore that day. You had a white tank top on, you had white shorts, down to the T. And I'm like, okay, well maybe I'm still not believing. Maybe Debbie told him. So he says, listen, I would love to meet you and invite you to the stadium. I'll send a car. And because I've never really been with a guy, other than like going to the movies, which I had done one time, I was scared. And I said, no, actually, I'm going away with my family for the weekend. I can. And he's like, well, think about it, and I'll let you know, and I'll call you back. So I go downstairs, and my dad's on the front porch, and he's about to watch the Yankees at 7:30. And I go, Dad, I think Mel Hall just called me from the Yankees. He's like, oh, Chaz, that's crazy. I said, I think so, but I don't know. He said he's going to call back, and he's holding the paper. He said, well, they play at 7:30. I said, well, he said he's going to call at 7:30. He goes, well, there's no way that it's him because they're playing. So I don't know who's calling you, but it's not Mel Hall. So at 7:30, the phone rings, and I pick up the phone, and I say, listen, I don't know who this is. I know that you have a game, supposedly, at 7:30, so, who is this? And he says, well, I do have a game, and I'm sitting in the dugout, and I'm DHing, which means I just hit. I don't play. So, but to prove it to you, I'm going to go turn your TV on, and I will make a signal for you. I'm like, well, this is interesting. Okay, so I run downstairs. I'm like, Mom, Dad, my grandfather's there, massive Yankee fan. Like every book fair, I buy him a Yankee poster from like second grade to present. Huge Yankee fans, Yankee satin jackets. I mean, we're all in with the Yankees. So I'm like, Gramp, I think Mel Hall's going to do a signal on the TV. So we're all sitting around the TV. My parents, at this time, I called my girlfriend, Debbie, who loved him. And I said, you got to come. I think he called. He's going to do this signal. And his signal was he was going to hit home plate 3 times and then look at the camera. So we're all sitting there. And then he gets up to bat, and he doesn't do anything the first time. And we're all like, oh, we totally, got punked. And then the second time he comes up, hits home plate, points at the camera. So now, at that moment, my family was all in. I mean, before we even met him, everybody was like, oh, my goodness, no. So he calls back. He asks to speak to my mother. And he invites us all, the whole family, because he's a family guy, to the Yankee game the next day. And so we're like, great. Talks to my mother probably 5 or 6 times that night. Keeps calling back in between batting. And a little bit about my family background. Growing up, as I said, in Fairfield, Connecticut, we were surrounded by wealth, but we were not wealthy people. It's a very affluent area. But my parents were both very hardworking people. My mom ran a daycare service out of her house. That's interesting. My father worked worked in a factory. Wonderful man, made maybe bad decisions when it came to this, but hardworking, very good, intended people, and they would kind of, and I'm like this till this day, they would kind of be the type of people that would take anybody in, no matter what their pocket was. If someone was in hard times, they would end up at our house. Our house was like revolving doors. People were always in our home. And so my parents would always take people in, and my mom felt like she could fix everyone. Also growing up, because my mom was running a daycare service, so there was a lot of children in our house. And I think she would never say this, but she was distracted. And I spent a lot of time alone, and I spent a lot of time in my room watching Michael Jackson videos. And at 15, I didn't really have someone telling me anything other than just smile and look pretty. That's what you're good at. And my dad would always say that. Isn't she pretty? Just smile and look pretty. And they would never talk about my being smart or being kind or generous. It was always, she'll be great if she marries someone rich and smile and look pretty. And so a 15-year-old girl thinking that's kind of what you're told is what you think you are. So it was easy for someone to come in and say how pretty I was. Because I'm like, oh, yeah, I've heard that from my parents a lot, and I guess that's what I'm good for. So anyway, we meet Mel. We all go to the stadium. We meet him at the dugout. My father reaches out and shakes his hand and says, listen, she is 15 years old. And he said, okay, that's good. Just keep drinking your milk, kid. And that was like a commercial for milk. Drink your milk and it helps you grow up. And so we leave. He gets us souvenirs. My friend Debbie's with us. She gets her autograph. And it's a great day. The next day, he calls my home line again, and he starts asking me what size clothes I wear. He wants to send me bathing suits and clothing, and I thought that was strange. And so I go to the beach that day. It's what we did. It was summer. All of my friends were there. And I'm like, I cannot believe this. This guy's calling. He's wanting to buy clothes. Like, this is crazy. He plays for the Yankees. I'm a little starstruck. And all my friends, of course, being girls, were mad at me. So I called my mom and I was crying and I'm like, can you pick me up? Meanwhile, she's been talking to him the entire day and she tells him to come over after the game. He had a game that day and she invites him to the house. I did not know that. So I'm home, 15. I put Oxy all over my face because I was having a breakout. I'm in my bathing suit still and she calls me downstairs and he shows up in a limousine, like the knight in shining armor, to come fix my bad day. And when he came that day, he never left. He came every single day after every game, and he was telling my mother, you're like the mom I never had. I haven't had a home and being on the road so much, and his sob story about he did have a difficult upbringing, but he shared that often to manipulate. And so into that week, he bought my father a Corvette very quickly. For no apparent reason, but he just thought my dad should have a convertible Corvette because he was manipulating. And my dad was the one that was saying that this was wrong, but my mom always kind of wore the pants in the family and always kind of just dictated what happened in our family. And my mom was hook, line, and sinker with him. And so my dad, at one point after the Corvette, he left the house and he says, if you're letting him stay, I am not staying in this house. He wants to be with our daughter. And he left. And I'm crying, and Mel was there. And he's like, I'm going to handle this. I'll fix it. So he goes. My dad went to Dunkin' Donuts because that's where you go, apparently. And I remember driving with Mel to Dunkin' Donuts and him making everything better. He told my father he was never going to touch me, and he was going to wait for me to turn 18, and he was going to marry me, and that this was fate, and it was destiny, and he never opens fan mail. And the reason, and he was convinced that it's destiny because he opened this one letter that happened to be in a box, but it fell on a chair. But Bob, I'm never going to hurt her, and I will take care of her. Any other boy in high school is going to take advantage of her, but I would not do that. And I will wait. And I want this family. I've never had this family. So he gets my father to come home, and I remember he said, I'm going to go to the store and make a fried chicken dinner. And he was the hero, like that night. I'm like, okay, that was great. A couple days later, he proposes to me, gives me a ring. I don't want to wear it to school because it's very gauche, and that was the first of a few rings. Let me just take a sip of water. But that was really his claim of property. It wasn't an engagement of love. It was just, you're going to go to school and you're going to have this ring. And then I'm also going to make a necklace that has my name on it, Mel, and the number 27, my number, and then I'm going to have a bracelet that says Mel, and you're basically my property. And I'm doing all this, and I'm doing all this for your family, so be grateful. And I really was not attracted to him that summer. I thought he was a nice guy, shockingly, because of how he was fixing my family. But then I grew into this relationship with him. And at night, when my father would be sleeping on the couch because Mel would say, I just want to hang out and watch a movie, and we would be laying on the floor in the family room, my father would be right there on the couch, and Mel would climb over on top of me, and I would pretend I was sleeping and sexual assault me. And that's when it started pretty quickly after he started spending the night at our house. And my dad was right there. And then I started sleeping upstairs and didn't want to do the movies. And so he would sneak upstairs. He's very good at sneaking, and we have an old house, and the stairs cracked, and he knew how to get up those stairs. He was very proud of that. And so every night he would show up in my room, and I would pretend I was sleeping for probably 4 months. And then I never said a word. I would cry after I started waking up. So for the next year, I would cry, and I would feel I was never raised in a church. So I didn't know it was wrong, but I felt in my heart it was wrong. And so I would cry, and he would say, it's okay, I love you, this is love. I love you so much, and I'm here sleeping on a floor because I just want to be with you. And I can have any woman in the world, but I just want to be with you because you're special. And a 15-year-old girl, when you hear how special you are, you start thinking, okay, it's my problem. I guess he really loves me, and this is what love is, and I just need to get over it. And look at how much he's doing for my family. And yeah. And he started paying for the groceries, and he started paying for bills, and he was buying my brother a car and my sister a car and my mom a car and Rolexes and everything. It was a constant parade of gifts, and I think from people that didn't really have much, or were not even monetarily, but they weren't really acknowledged in general. My parents, I think they felt special that this New York Yankee was living with them, so they were being manipulated as well. So after being in this relationship 3 years, he is living in our home. We're traveling with him. We're going to every Yankee game because he was superstitious. We were walking through the Yankee offices every single game. He would have the car come to my house, take me to the stadium. I'm doing homework in the car. I have my book bag. I'm walking through Yankee offices, getting in the elevator, going to the wide suite. I'm not a wife. I'm 15, 16, 17, 18. No one is saying anything. My high school principal thinks it's great and would love Yankee tickets because it's hard to get good seats. And so if you could get me seats, just let me know. I would love to get good seats. And it's my son's birthday. Can you get me seats? And our sheriff in our town loved him and wanted memorabilia. He was a big collector. So it would be great if he could get Bo Jackson's, because he's a dual sports guy, his autograph. And it was very specific. And they would come to our home in their police car and park in front of our house. But they were coming for autographs and Yankee tickets. And they just thought he was awesome. What a great guy. And my parents were smitten by him. And my mom had to, believe it or not, close her daycare service because there was a 29-year-old black man sleeping on our floor. And you lived in Fairfield, Connecticut. And every time, that it was kind of, believe it or not, like a racist area, I felt, because every time he was in a car, he'd get pulled over. And so she's like, it wasn't, let's shut down because of my daughter. I don't think it's good for business. And it was just twisted, and I always would feel bad for him because I felt like he was profiled, like the whole race thing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to stand up for him, and this town is so crazy. There was a lot of dynamics going on. One of the other things that I would stand up for him for is when I would say, I'm really not wanting to have sex, and I do love you, because at one point I did fall in love with him because I thought he really had my best interest at heart. And he would tell me, your parents are kind of selling you out, but I'm here for you. Like, they just want me here because I'm paying bills and, I'm giving them cars. They're totally selling you out. I'm the one that loves you. And so you and me, we're going to get out of here. And I'm going to rescue you. And I believed him. So I thought he really loves me. Like, he's the one that cares about me. My parents are selling me out. And he would tell me that often. And there was, to a degree, some proof, So I felt like I wanted to defend him. So with the times that I would say, I just would rather just wait till we get married. I feel like this is wrong. I don't like it. And he would say, you cannot withhold from me. I've done everything for you. And that was one of the things. I said, what if I just talk to my parents? Why don't we just tell them so we could get married? And then I won't feel so bad about it. And he's like, you can't tell anybody. I will lose my career. You cannot tell anybody. You cannot tell anyone at school. You cannot tell your friends. I'll lose everything, and we'll lose everything, because I'm going to marry you when you're 18. And when it's legal, we just have to wait till you're 18. And then we'll tell everybody, because we're going to get married. Look, I put a ring on your finger. Everyone knows. It's fine. Everyone knows we're going to get married. So he knew my age, because he knew he had to wait till he was 18. He knew that it was wrong, but everyone around us was okay with it. And I felt like it was wrong because I didn't feel like it was right to have sex before marriage. I wasn't even thinking that he was a pedophile. It was not even on the radar. No one talked about that at my age. I really didn't think about that until there was a show that came out, To Catch a Predator. I don't know if y'all remember that show. And I remember sitting with my husband and thinking, okay, these girls were my age, so this is a crime. Why wasn't it a crime? Why was the sergeant getting autographs? Like, why didn't anyone say anything? I really didn't understand. So 3 years into this relationship, he's very possessive. He is very controlling. If he didn't like what I wore, he would put me in a closet and make me change and not let me out of the closet until I changed my clothes. He was never physically abusive, but mentally he played a lot of mental games. constantly. So I was a pleaser. That is another thing, young girls. Most of us are pleasers, and we want to please. And predators know that. So I was a pleaser, and I wanted to keep peace. And as long as he was happy, I didn't have to deal with him giving me the silent treatment or telling me I'm so selfish or everything I do. You were so spoiled. You can't do one thing for me. So I would just, whatever he said, I was a pleaser. So I'm about 18. We moved to Florida because he was superstitious if I wasn't there for spring training. So my whole family leaves Connecticut. We moved to Florida with him. When we walk into that house, he's still in New York playing, but I had to start school. We walk into the house, and the realtor says, here's the home. It was decorated. This is your room, Chastity, which was the master. And then your parents, it was like a split home. Your parents and your brother and your sister are on the other side. It was a big, like, ranch-style home. They were pretty far away. And I'm like, okay, so I'm in the master bedroom with him. No one said a word. We shared the master bedroom my whole senior year. He was in Florida for some reason because it was a new school for me and I was getting a lot of attention. It made him crazy. So he would come and stay in the parking lot of the school, and the school actually said he could no longer come to the school. They wouldn't let him on property. But that's where his control was getting more intense. He felt like he was losing control. And so he would just get more aggressive with controlling. You need to stay on the phone whenever he's on a road trip. If you cannot leave the house. And my mom was kind of behind it. She's like, why would you make him mad? He does everything for you. I'm like, but why do I have to stay here on this phone? Because there were not cell phones. Just to prove that I'm here. Like, it wasn't like I was out doing crazy things. So I'd have to stay on the phone all night long, keep my phone off the hook to make sure he was there. Meanwhile, I'm sure he was, doing several things because I would call the room sometimes and the maid would answer. And he would convince me it was the maid, even though I knew it wasn't the maid. So anyway, he was not faithful, but I was expected to be faithful. I was expected to obey. And that was the mental abuse. There was a picture, and I don't know if it's in the PowerPoint. He's about to go on a road trip, and I had his jersey on, which he wanted me to wear all the time. And I'm like, my head is down, and he's basically telling me, I don't want anyone coming over to the house. I don't want any friends coming here. And I was obedient because I was a pleaser. So after enough of that, I finally talked to my dad and said, we went to Florida. Then in the spring, we had to go to New York because it started, baseball started in April. So we moved into Trump Tower. And he did not want to go back to Connecticut. And he wanted me to be in this apartment away from my parents because now I was 18 and we were going to play house, so to speak. My brother did move into the apartment with us because my mom felt like, well, I think at least your brother should be there. So we moved there. My brother's there. My brother's loving life, living in New York. And I lived in New York, but I wasn't allowed to see New York. I never went to Central Park. I literally stayed in that apartment. The car would come, take me to the Yankee game. After the Yankee game, I'd wait for him. We'd drive back together and stay in the apartment all night and, basically do that and have sex. So that was a lot of it. And I remember one night I did not want to go to the game, and I sat on the bed, and there was glass windows all around me except for behind me is where the TV was. And I remember sitting on the bed, and I was looking out at all the lights. We were on like the 58th floor. And I remember thinking, I don't know what's wrong with me, but everything should be good because everyone around me was okay with this. I should be happy. Maybe I am spoiled, but I'm not happy. I don't want to go buy anything. He always say, just go shopping, take the car and just go shopping. I don't want to buy anything, but I feel so empty and so lost. And why is it that I'm dating this New York Yankee? And he's on TV behind me. I should be happy. And I remember thinking that and having that moment, and I called my dad shortly after. And I said, Dad, I just feel like I'm locked up. Can we just go to Florida and get away? And I feel like he's going to kill me one day. And my dad came.